Every week, Hillsdale College President Larry P. Arnn joins Hugh Hewitt to discuss great books, great men, and great ideas. This is the Hillsdale Dialogues, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. Also at the Hillsdale College Podcast Network, check out the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, The Larry P. Arnn Show, and more, all at podcast.hillsdale.edu.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. That music means it's the last radio hour of the week and SNC hour of the week for Hugh Hewitt. Dr. Larry Arnn is my guest. The Hillsdale Dialogue is underway. Dr. Larry Arnn can be found over at hillsdale.edu with his own podcast. You can find all of these prior Hillsdale Dialogues at hughforhillsdale.com. You can find your application at hillsdale.edu. But you can't find good help. You know, Dr. Arnn, this morning we had trouble getting the picture. And all the years that you've been at Hillsdale, growing it into this amazing success story, you've had wonderful assistants working for you. And I've had Dwayne. And so I wondered, did I get any sympathy from you this morning?
I'll tell you something. My doubts this morning. So pretty soon we're going to dedicate a wonderful new thing called the Sajak, after Pat Sajak, Visual Media Studio. And it costs millions of dollars, and it's got sets, and it's really great. And this morning, I'm confident that we are unable to make it work.
Well, I just want some sympathy. All those years you had Kyle, and you got all these great people who've worked with you for decades, and I've got Dwayne, and it's just not even fair. So today we're doing.
Dwayne has the one credential that you have to have. Dwayne puts up with you.
That is true, but not always without.
I have a doctorate in that.
Dr. Dwayne. All right, let's get to Tuesday. We're talking the Friday after Super Tuesday. Nikki Haley is out of the race. Donald Trump swept. Were you surprised?
No. We have no idea what's going to happen come November, but it's been inevitable since the summer, I think, early last summer, that Trump was going to be the nominee. Events are conspired. There's a big thing I can't figure out, and I think it's maybe because I'm dumb, or else it's because they're divided mind. But do the Democrats want Trump? Because they're doing things that certainly have boosted him. Prosecuting former president and the leading candidate, one of the major parties, prosecuting him, 91 counts of felony this and that. Well, that has helped Trump with many people, and it makes it hard to argue with him. And the country did better under him than it has done under Biden. I even think that's clear. But so it's a heck of a race. And politics has changed now, too, because the way people vote is greatly changed and, in my opinion, dangerously changed, mostly because it takes some of the initiative away from the voter. So one of my favorite Churchill quotes is, he says that the great strength and safety of Britain is the little man alone, and he meant women too, little man alone in the ballot booth deciding the fate of the nation. Well, little man's not alone anymore. Now there's somebody brings them a ballot. They are acted upon more than they used to be.
You know, I showed our friend Senator Cotton pictures this week of a ballot drop box in his, John Campbell, showed it to Congressman Campbell, a ballot box in his old district that is located at the end of a park, a dark park, that is closed at nightfall. Oh, we've got them. And you can see them on your screen. Official ballot drop box. It's at the end of a parking lot, far removed from any lighting, and subject to abuse, in my view, a sort of a fraud magnet. Nobody says boo. It's still there. COVID's been over for 2 years. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Well, the spirit of the age is that we have to extend our control to everything. But the great C.S. Lewis writes that the power of man over nature turns out to be the power of some men over others.
Yes.
And so we're going to get, a lot of, you can manipulate things, right? I remember there was a great guy in Claremont who studied, his name was Alan Heslop, Englishman, and he studied redistricting. And I remember when he said that the great change that has come is that we can estimate and model what will be the effect of moving the district lines of a congressional district or any electoral district by a single block. And we can predict the outcome. Well, we didn't used to be able to do that. And gerrymandering is named after gerrymandering, he always said, and that actually might be how Elbridge Gerry actually said his name, one of the founding fathers. And he connived in drawing tangled-looking district lines, to win and, try to win a majority in the legislature. So that's been done for a long time. Now it's scientifically done. And that means it can be very precise. And
it's done 2 or 3 times. And it's done subject to Democratic courts and Republican courts. We can go off on that, but I want to go back to Super Tuesday. Because, Dr. Arnn, you made the wise decision to marry an immigrant to the United States. My grandfather came over here in 1878, went in the coal mines of Pennsylvania, so I have prospered as a relatively recent immigrant family to the United States. We're not anti-immigrant. We're not anti-legal immigration. I'm not even much of an anti-illegal immigration person. If they're vetted at all and they have a record of employment and contribution and peace and law-abiding. But on Tuesday night on my old network, MSNBC, an exchange occurred between Jen Psaki and Rachel Maddow. And I will let you comment on it. Let's play that shortcut.
I mean, if you look at some of these exit polls, I live in Virginia. Immigration was the number one issue. Again, these could change in Virginia.
Well, Virginia does have a border with West Virginia.
All right, big yes there, Dr. Arnn. I live in Virginia, too. You go there a lot. What do you think of the indifference of elite media to the death of Laken Riley on the campus of the University of Georgia, the rape of a 14-year-old in Virginia, by an illegal migrant, the migrant crime we see? What do you make of that kind of mocking of the issue?
Well, there are 2 parts to that, right? First of all, murder rates are up in American cities. Some of them by illegal immigrants, some of them not. There's an indifference about that. It doesn't matter that it's people of the color of George Floyd who are most suffering from murder. So we've taken a different attitude about human life, and it's very widespread. But then a second thing is, there's a series of simple deductions, right? Men are not angels, and angels do not govern men. Because we're not angels, we have to have government. Because we have to have government, it's also true that the government will be carried on by people who are people too. And so they can't be fully trusted. And that means that you have to have controls. Well, the first control, and the most important control by above all, is that the governed elect the ones who are governed. And that means you have to have a people. There has to be an identifiable people that get to do the electing and are the governed. Well, that's collapsing now, right? There are jurisdictions in America now that let illegal aliens, not citizens, vote. And that reminds one of something in the Declaration of Independence. In the middle of the Declaration of Independence, there are these 17 paragraphs, if I remember correctly, charges against the king, bad stuff he did. And those actually, if you just read them in reverse, those are things that a constitution should guarantee not to happen. Well, one of those things is the king had given a new constitution to Quebec. And he liked it a lot because it let him do, he's in charge. And so then he's got that place the way he wants it. And so he expands its borders southwards into what had been the colonies that became the United States of America. So he was changing who the people is. See?
And that is why we rebelled. Go nowhere, America. Dr. Arnn will be right back on this Friday after Super Tuesday. Stay with us. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Hey, it's Scott Bertram, and I've got a challenge for you today. Become a better educated American citizen. And to help you do just that, we at Hillsdale College have our free online courses available for all who wish to learn. Our challenge? Take just one of our courses. There are so many to choose from. You can discover the beauty of the Bible in the Genesis story, study the writings of C.S. Lewis, or explore the true meaning of America in Constitution 101. We have dozens more to choose from, and all these self-paced free courses feature Hillsdale faculty and scholars, many you've heard on this podcast. So visit hillsdale.edu/course, COURSE, and pick one of the more than 30 free Hillsdale courses. I hope you'll accept my challenge. Pick whichever course you like and become a more educated citizen today. Go to hillsdale.edu/course, COURSE. That's hillsdale.edu/course.
Welcome back, America. The Super Friday edition of the Hillsdale Dialogue is underway. All things Hillsdale at found at hillsdale.edu. Dr. Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale, is my guest. Dr. Arnn, Nikki Haley was a good candidate. Many people in the Republican Party wanted a one-on-one between Donald Trump and some other traditional good candidate, well-funded, well-presented. I saw the former UN ambassador and governor in person in New Hampshire this summer. I had her on this show often. A lot of conservatives wanted Ron DeSantis, but he got smoked, and he quickly came over to Donald Trump. She, not so full-throated, not, tentative. What do you think is best for her in the short term? I think she hurt herself badly by not being full-throated in favor of Donald Trump on Tuesday. What do you think?
Everyone was caught in a contradiction. She was a good candidate. She's an impressive woman. The contradiction is, if you support him, why are you running against him? And so she took the road. She was sharply critical of him. DeSantis was sometimes too. And that just did not help them, right? Because if you understand, I heard, George Will. I had a dinner with George Will not long ago, and he really doesn't like Donald Trump.
Not in the least.
But he gave a wonderful explanation why people are so wild for him. His explanation was that they don't feel like it's their country anymore, that the country is run by people who don't understand them and don't care about them and are not like them. And Trump, billionaire, is like them in some very important and impressive ways. And, it's always been true that politicians, to be effective, need to be folksy. In Abraham Lincoln, it was innate. In Stephen Douglas, whom he conquered, he attempted, but he wasn't very good at it, And so but now it's deeper, right? Now people think we don't have much to do with the decisions anymore. They are the same, whoever gets elected. And elections are now orchestrated in ways that are unknown in previous American politics. And so that means that there are at least 75 million votes for somebody who can sound that theme and plausibly do something about it. And that's the key to Donald Trump's strength. And
I've got a theory on this as well, Dr. Arnn. Your first job teaches you a lot. Your second job teaches you a little bit more. Donald Trump worked construction, and his father, the original Trump developer, made him work on the job sites, did manual labor. And I think that's a wonderful, and he's from Queens, right? He's not from Manhattan. He moved to Manhattan. What do you think that does to someone's innate ability to talk to people who work with their hands?
Well, I have personal experience with that. For some reason, I always had the knack of acquiring difficult jobs.
Ooh.
Have to work all the time.
Ooh.
And
bad habit.
When I was a kid, I worked construction. I worked in a barrel stave mill. I'll describe it to you sometimes. It's possibly the worst job in the world. And I helped to build the Kmart in Naples, Florida. It's now the Burlington Coat Factory on Highway 41. Go look at it. We built her strong, still there. And I love the people I worked with. And there is a story about Donald Trump that I admire very much, and that is he apparently said to John Mattis when he was Secretary of Defense once, he said, when I was going to buy a company or trying to fix a company that was messed up, I would always go talk to the people who work in the company, because the people who work in the company can always tell you what's wrong with it. He said, you keep bringing these generals to see me about Afghanistan. What about the soldiers? Could I talk to some of them? Well, that's I have had dinner in the former Trump Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C. I think it's the Waldorf Astoria now. And I just happened to go on just the wrong night because some people were sitting next to us who...
Hold on, I want to hear the whole story. We got to go to a break, so hold on to that. We'll come back to the Trump Hotel when it was the Trump Hotel in D.C. Stand by. Dr. Larry Arnn, the Hillsdale Dialogue continues. Dr. Larry Arnn is here on the Hillsdale Dialogue. All things Hillsdale at hillsdale.edu. All of our previous Hillsdale Dialogues are collected at hughforhillsdale.com, and we return to World War I and the tank specifically next week. But Dr. Arnn, you were having dinner in the Trump Tower when we went to break. Sitting next to whom?
I don't know. Somebody who recognized me and likes Hillsdale College, and he said that he'd had dinner there 2 nights in a row, and on the previous night, Donald Trump had been having dinner in this restaurant where we were. And he said that Donald Trump kept getting up and talking to the waiters and the kitchen staff, and he liked them, and they liked him. And then he saw Donald Trump go around to all the waiters and give each of them some money, a $100 bill, he thought. And he said, I'm sorry, I know we slowed down your business tonight because of all the presidential palaver that goes on when they go anywhere. And so the point is, he liked those people, and they liked him. And
that's a good point.
I think that's genuine in him. I used to actively, there's still things that I don't like about Trump, but I'll name one, be fair. He said that yesterday's Super Tuesday will be remembered as the greatest moment in American history. Well, that's a tall order. There have been a couple of other moments that were pretty good, but that's how he is, right? But what I did like about him, I didn't like glitzy show that he's like that, But what I did like about him was it always had a kind of populist cast to it. I think that's why, by the way, our leaders of our ruling class, so many of them don't like him. They think he's crass. And the reason is he's a popularizer. He sold stuff to very, very expensive stuff to people. I had a friend who had a top floor of the Trump World Tower next to Derek Jeter. And that guy was a Marine. That guy was an airline pilot. That guy was an investor who's just really good at it. And that guy was a very rich, ordinary guy. And he just loved Donald Trump. And he would see him once in a while in that place. And, of course, they got to know all the staff in this fancy place where he lived. And the staff all just loved Trump. So that's the point. Trump is, and since I said a negative thing about him, here's a positive thing, right? Trump is bridging that divide between the powerful and the ordinary, which is not even supposed to be a divide in America. And it takes courage to do that.
Let me also trot out a theory for you, Dr. Arnn. I have tested it out on 3 former senior Trump administration officials who will be back. They're all in his good graces. They were all senior, and they all know him well. And that is their theory that black males in America feel put upon by law enforcement to a disproportionate degree. They believe that charges are stacked, and that's a term of art in criminal law, where you take one misdemeanor and you turn it into 32 felonies like Alvin Bragg has done in Manhattan. And that is why, as Steve Kornacki told me on Wednesday morning on this program, Donald Trump's up at around 22% of black males. Their theory, not now Steve's theory isn't this, but my 3 friends who are Trump alumni theory is that the African male community feels a genuine connection with the lawfare being waged against Donald Trump, and they don't like it. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Well, I was reading a paper this morning, and I can't remember who now, and it doesn't matter, but some supposedly deeply insightful analyst, pollster, analyzer of polls. I think the woman was an academic. Apparently she hates Trump, but she made that very point. She said that he's unprecedentedly strong for a Republican among black males, and she thought that's why. And see, Trump, by the way, in his first term, I'm not sure he was right about it, but I admired it, whether he was or not. He went into sentencing, of federal prisoners, and he just thinks it's bad that somebody, commits their 3rd drug offense and they get a long sentence. And a lot of those people, they grew up in that world where that was the only path up. And Trump sympathizes with that. I do too, right? You'd have to, and Trump was like a lot of that. Jack Kemp was a friend of both of us, and he was he had a real sincere wish to help out the long-term, what do we call them, underprivileged. Caught in a cycle of poverty and crime, dad's not in the household, that stuff. Trump did a lot of that stuff. He enterprise zones for, I think that's where the promise is.
Now, I also believe, and this goes back to our shared appreciation of Lincoln, that if you understand the genuine problems of the country and can communicate that honestly, you will do well, and that the American people are good judges of what is right and what is wrong has manifested itself in the Civil War and the willingness of 600,000 Americans to go fight for their side, and one side was wrong, one side was right. But Abraham Lincoln won that argument, and he made an argument about it. I think Trump is going to make an argument about this prosecution in Manhattan, that it's unjust. And I think we're going to recognize that it's unjust. Harder to do on the documents case. Much harder to do on the one that Jack Smith has brought in D.C. because it's so convoluted and complicated and it's confused with January 6th. But it's easy to do in Manhattan because that's the Stormy Daniels Access Hollywood case, which has been in the news for 8 years, occurred far longer ago than that, about which he was pummeled and pilloried by none other than me and other people at the time and called upon to withdraw, and he wouldn't quit. And it's all priced in, and he's turned it into 32 felonies. It's a 2-year statute of limitations, and it's a misdemeanor. It is appalling what Alvin Bragg has done, and I think the American people know that. Do you?
Yeah, and see, there's a cost you have to pay if you do a thing like this, whichever side you're on, right? Because these are obviously political prosecutions. And so now everybody concludes we live in a land where there are political prosecutions. And so what conclusions do you draw from that? Normal people will draw the conclusion, better keep your head down, which is not, people don't love what they fear, even if they obey. And they'll be looking for a way out. We're going to talk about the wars here directly. And what happened? These despotic nations that launched these wars, they found their allies left them the minute they could. And in general, the thing is not trusted. I read yesterday that some dozens or hundreds, I don't know how many, of the January 6th insurrectionists have been prosecuted, and all have been convicted who've reached a result in their proceeding. And that means nobody was wrongly accused. And that's, it's just, you think that if they decide to come after you, they can get you. And that's not a good, healthy atmosphere for anybody in the country. And it will recoil on the people who are doing it one way or another.
And back to my conversation 2 weekends ago with the 3 Trump alum, one of them made the point, we are frequent critics of dictators, authoritarians, and totalitarians who jail their political opponents and prosecute them. And he made the point to me, we are no longer going to be able to make the argument that the United States has clean hands. And that matters in equity. That's a couple of legal phrases I'll throw your way. That does matter. And expect to hear back. Who are you to lecture us about prosecuting political opponents? Think that's available?
Well, I read that the Chinese are making hay with stuff like that all over the world.
That's exactly what was cited to me as the example.
Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong, a very great man, a billionaire, who his crime was to start an extremely popular newspaper and write bad stuff about the corruption of the Hong Kong political system by the Chinese after they took it over. And all he had to do, he's a billionaire, right? All he had to do was shut up and move, and he wouldn't. And he's in prison now, about to turn 80, not well. I understand that he's found his faith.
Devout Catholic.
Devout Catholic. Yeah, he is. Yeah, which we Protestants think is a form of finding your... Anyway, he's... are they doing that to Donald Trump?
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. That's what the Chinese say to us. I'll be right back with Dr. Arnn. We're going to talk third parties in a moment. Because Super Tuesday is done, it's going to be the rematch. It's going to be the Rose Garden, not the Rose Garden, the Rose Basement campaign. But what about these third party people? Don't go anywhere. Dr. Arnn and I will be back to talk more.
Hillsdale College is a small, Christian, classical liberal arts college that operates independently of government funding. And we want you or your son or daughter to apply. At Hillsdale, students grow in heart and mind by studying timeless truths in a supportive community dedicated to the highest things. Hillsdale College costs significantly less than other nationally ranked private liberal arts colleges and receives regular recognition as a best value, and nearly all students receive financial aid. Our robust core curriculum, vibrant student life, and 8-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio make for an education like no other. For more information or to fill out an application, visit hillsdale.edu/info. That's hillsdale.edu/info.
Kennedy Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, maybe a no labels candidacy. Third parties are in the mix, as they were in 1968, in 1992, 1996. Dr. Arnn, you're a student of American history. What do we make when third parties like the know-nothings begin to appear? What do they tell us about the state of the republic?
Well, it's these are not placid times, is what that tells us, right? I haven't looked it up, but I'll bet you there's never been a national election in America when there was not a third party candidate. Mostly people hardly notice, right? But now the independent vote has swelled up to a great size, bigger, I think, than ever recorded. And a lot of people don't like either of these choices. And so maybe they can make a difference. I think Ross Perot, United We Stand, I think that's how Bill Clinton got elected president.
I agree. Although
so
some statisticians tell us he hurt Bush more than more than Clinton, but I'll never believe that. I'll never believe that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do know that the effect of them has always been that it changes which of the two major party candidates win if it has an effect.
Yes,
because they're not going to win, and that could be it is such candidates have been launched for that purpose in the past, and that's so that some of that is going on here, and I have met and like very much Robert Kennedy, very much. I just love that guy. I think he's crazy about half the time, but the other half is very uncrazy. And if you meet him and talk to him and watch him talk and watch his campaign, he's not doing this for any reason except that he just believes in it. He thinks his party is lost. He wants to fix it. He wants back the party of his brother and his uncle, John and Robert Kennedy. Did I say his brother? His father and his uncle. Yeah. And that, by the way, if we could get that party back, I'd probably join it today. They were tax cutters. They didn't like the mafia. They didn't like communism.
Tried to kill Castro a lot of times. Tried to miss.
Yeah, never did get that. Yeah. Well, it's the attempt. Nothing wrong with the attempt. So yeah, I think I think he genuinely wants to recover the thing that he grew up with, and it's gone. He thinks, and he makes a heck of a case for it.
I think it's been absorbed into the new Republican Party, and that a lot of the old Republican Party, the country club Republicans, have gone away because Donald Trump is not a country club Republican, though he owns country clubs. He doesn't belong to them. He owns them. Yeah. That's a big difference.
That's right. That's very good. That's a very good point. I've always wondered if Trump is a good golfer.
He's a fabulous golfer. I've been told by people who play. Brett Baer told me on the air this week. He's a fabulous golfer.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't. A friend of mine who worked for him told me once that Trump, he was working on regulatory stuff and deregulation. And I'll repeat the story. Maybe I shouldn't, but I will. I won't give the names except Trump's name. Trump said, "Is this an exciting life for you?" And he said, "Very." And Trump said, "Like Tiger Woods?" And then my friend interrupted and said, "Trump would really like to be Tiger Woods." So he said, "No, it's better than that. We get to save our country." Trump said, "Okay, this is a good life." He had the sense that Trump was musing a little about, it's cool to be president, but gosh, to be Tiger Woods, wouldn't that be something? Yeah,
but when you're Tiger Woods, your career's over at 45. His wasn't even begun
That's
yet.
Right.
Now I just want to look into the fog of the future, and no one can. I don't think there's going to be a debate. I don't think Joe Biden has got the energy to run this campaign. I really do fear for him at the age of 81. He's fallen apart, and it's obvious, and it's putting our allies at risk. It's putting the country at risk. Any chance in your mind that he steps aside voluntarily? We got a minute, Larry.
I've never believed that he was going to be on the ballot this year. And I don't believe it today, although now I don't see the mechanism to get him out.
That's well stated.
They would have to do something.
Neither do I. And I don't think they can stomach the idea of getting him out and putting someone other than Kamala Harris in, because that would be a coup against the vice president, who would be ordinarily entitled to move up at that moment. And I do not believe the Democrats would risk that. So I'm exactly where you are. Dr. Larry Arnn, thank you. Next week, tanks and smoke and poison gas. How's that as a teaser? Tanks, smokes, poison gas, Winston Churchill. We're back into World War I, but we're well into Volume 2. We're moving faster than the first tanks did right now. Don't miss it. All the Hillsdale Dialogues are collected at HughForHillsdale.com. Everything Hillsdale at Hillsdale.edu, including some extraordinary courses that Dr. Arnn has himself taught and others have taught at Hillsdale. Don't miss that. Check them out at Hillsdale.edu. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Hillsdale Dialogues, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. For more information about Hillsdale College, head to hillsdale.edu.